My name is Ayyad. I'm going to explain to you today the absolute value equations and inequalities, hoping you will get benefit out of this class. The absolute value what we mean by the absolute value? It means to change the sign of the inside if it was negative. If it was positive, we will not change it. So this is, we will have to keep in our minds when we write the absolute value, it means to change the sign of the inside if it was negative value. As an example, the absolute value of minus 2 is equal to 2 because it is negative. That's why we did change it from minus to plus. The absolute value of minus 4, it will be 4. But the absolute value of 6, it will be 6. We did not change the sign because it was positive. And actually, we are going to talk about two things today: the absolute value equations and inequalities. When we say absolute value equation, this is what we have to keep in our minds. The absolute value equations. Remember, it is an equation, which means the unknown must be on one side. So whenever we want to deal with absolute value equations, this is what I have to do. I will have to simplify it. So I will have to have the absolute value on one side of the equation. This is the first step. If it was not on one side, or if we have something extra, we have to have the absolute value by itself on one side. And then, as we mentioned earlier about the absolute value, I will have to consider the inside. Either it used to be positive or it used to be negative. And this is whenever we want to talk about the absolute value, as we mentioned earlier, we have to change the sign of the negative number. So whenever I want to solve the equation, I will have to consider the inside, either it was a negative or it was positive. Let's take a look at the following example. The absolute value of 3x plus 5 equal to 7. Here, as you notice, the absolute value is already on one side, and we have the number on the other side. Before we go further, it is so important to keep in our minds this important thing, that the absolute value always positive, cannot be less than 0, always positive. So here, my answer is 7. It makes sense. Suppose we set, as an example, suppose we set 3x plus 5 equal minus 7. This cannot happen because this is negative. It must be positive. So, if we want to solve this example, I will have to say either the 3x plus 5 equal to 7 or 3x plus 5 equal minus 7. The inside either it used to be positive or it used to be negative. Two easy equations. I will simplify these two equations. 3x equal 7 minus 5, and that will be 2. So 3x equal to 2, so x equal 2/3. And let me solve this here. 3x equal minus 7 minus 5, and this minus 12. So x equal minus 12 divided by 3, and that should be minus 4. So here, I want you to notice that whenever we solve the absolute value equation, we have to consider the positive and the negative of the inside. The inside, not the outside. This is the inside, and this is the inside. And we end up, as you notice, with two different answers. And sometimes we end up with no solution, because here this does not make sense, because the absolute value cannot be negative. And we will do one more example.